Hey everyone, it's Mandy Gibbons here, and I'm here with Nick West, and we're going to have a bit of a conversation today about men's mental health, and also I really want to share Nick's journey and sort of what he's been through, like in the last few years. And I had seen some of his posts on LinkedIn, and I was really impressed. So I reached out to him. We had a phone call, and ta-da, we're here on our podcast show today, so that's pretty exciting. So I'll get you first, if you can, just a little bit, tell us a little bit about yourself, Nick, and then I'll get into the questions that we're sort of going to get into, because there's so many things that I found that when I read your story, I was like, okay, I need to share this with people. People need to hear your story, and there's a lot of people in your industry too that would really appreciate hearing this for themselves, right? Because they could be going through that and really not knowing how to handle it, what to do.
Yeah, definitely. And I appreciate you having me on. It's a bit about me is I'm 29, been in real estate for 10 years, got a young family, and obviously I think like most people, big aspirations and dreams, and yeah, looking forward to being able to share a little bit about my journey and story and what I've had to go through, learn, and who I had to become, and the things that I had to unlearn to get to where I am today.
Absolutely. So Nick, in regards to your previous work environment, what were some of the pressures that you were experiencing?
I think working in our industry, it is a fast-paced industry, and there's a fast reward for a lot of the work that you do, and it's usually quite a big reward. And I think with that comes a high demand, and I think with the high demand comes high stress, and then high stress can lead to I call it escape. I think there's different words for it, but I think when you're in that high pressure environment and you don't have necessarily the tools or understandings of what to do, it's something where it can lead you down either a good path or a bad path. And in my experience, thankfully I've learned from it was not necessarily a good path.
That makes sense. And I see that, even with the clients that I coach, like sometimes it doesn't take long for you to, like, once you've made a few decisions, when you're feeling trapped in overwhelm and you feel like there's kind of a little bit, there's no way out of the situation, right? That's when you start going downhill, and you go, okay, and not only that, you don't have, your emotions feel like they're just whizzing around, right? And you can't get hold of them, and that makes it really difficult.
Yeah, and it can take you down a path where it's like a rabbit hole. You just spiral and spiral and spiral, and if you, I think a lot of us don't have the tools and understanding of what to do, and most, I think, of us just keep going down.
Yeah, that's it.
And just don't come back up.
And we should laugh about this, but it's true. We're laughing because it is true, right? Because you are so right. When you don't have the tools, you know what you know, right? That's it. And I think that's what gets so scary for people when they're in that position, because they just don't know where to go.
Yeah, I agree.
And so when you were, struggling, how did you deal with how you were feeling and your emotions, and how to handle the situation when you were experiencing that, and how did that play out in your life and your relationships as well?
Yeah. So to be completely real and open and transparent, I, in the early days, it's sort of like we would go out and, like, I think, go to the pub like everybody else, and then it slowly led to more of a bad habit. And I think at the end of the week, with all the pressure that was sort of around you at the time, you would then lead you to go to the pub, drinking, then that eventually led to like drugs and alcohol, and then like really quite a strong dependence on needing to do that. So it's like when we get triggered with the stress and the anxiety of the high-paced, like fast environment, which it still is now.
Yes.
But I use a different. I'm totally different now with how I handle it. But back then, I would just like escape with drugs and alcohol, and like Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, and then go to work, and working 6-7 days a week. Like I would just go down that path of like escaping with drugs and alcohol, which I think like a lot of people do. I think a lot of people don't talk about it, but a lot of people do to handle how they feel. I think you could go as far as saying that people go to numb what's happened during the week, or what they've been dealing with, or what they're dealing with, to escape it all.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, you know, I was saying, like when you don't have the tools, you will do that because you need some peace from it, right? But what happens is that like you want to wipe yourself out, you want to find those vices to help give you some peace, and what it does, it actually makes it worse.
Yeah, most definitely it does. It's like a compounding effect. And when you know no different, and you're sort of trying to feel your way through it, you just keep going. And I think that it's like it's a snowball that builds momentum, and there's nothing to break it.
Yeah, that's it. Until you hit, well, I mean, the amount of people that will hit rock bottom, and they have a choice then of okay, I've got to try and climb my way out of this, or they don't. They end their lives, even. You know what I mean? So that's why it's so important that people know that they can reach out for help, but also like listen to your story and understand a little bit about people's experiences. So if they resonate with that, then they can go, okay, well, this is, you know, Nick got through this, I can too. There's some light at the end of the tunnel. I don't have to like drown in it, you know.
No, definitely. Like in my life, I feel like it got to a point where, and I wouldn't use the word depressed, because I don't think I was depressed, but I think I got to a point where I had sort of had enough of feeling the way that I had sort of felt. And then that's when I took the first step to go, well, okay, I'm not happy. I'm continuously going down this spiral, and I have to do something to change it. Otherwise it's just gonna, like, you could just end up dead.
Yeah.
Which unfortunately, like, a lot of men do.
Yeah, because it's like, and not only that, if you don't have any self-compassion for yourself, right, you're just beating yourself up all the time. It's just you are punishing yourself and just becoming more and more reckless. Yeah.
And then that has a disastrous effect on your work life, and most importantly your personal life.
Yeah. And that actually leads up to the next question. It's funny that we segued into that. Then it's because I find, you know, even for myself, when I'm coaching men and their mates say just go out and get drunk, get laid, get it out of your system, you know, or drop one of these, mate, and you'll forget your problems for the night, you know. And what might seem like an outlet, it really is, as we were talking about before, is escapism, and the way that it spirals, and as you were saying, like the compound effect. But I think also when you're beating yourself up at the same time, you're not really giving yourself a chance to be able to be kind to yourself and go, okay, I don't hate myself maybe as much as I feel like I do at the time, you know, and be able to find some ways to just like be able to look at yourself clearly about who you really are. And even though that can sound a little bit woo-woo, it is so important that you're able to do that, right? To understand the good qualities that you do have about yourself and your own ability, because when we're really overwhelmed and when we're spiraling downwards, we forget how powerful we are, you know, within ourselves, and also all the abilities and all the things that we may have achieved in the past that was just so incredibly important to us, and that we had always, you know, maybe been proud of before, that all goes out the window. We can't see that anymore, right?
Yeah, and I think it comes back to, from my experience, is not being clear on who you are.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people, and talking from my own experience, even from when I was sort of late teens to like being around 20, like I was lost. Like there was no direction, like no understanding of who you are, not even able to understand like emotions, being able to process emotions. So when there's no outlet for it, it then gets channeled into something. And unfortunately, it was just channeled into habits that weren't going to actually take me forward and take you down.
That's it. And like, how did you find it? You know, did you find it challenging to be able to reach out and seek support or find resources for you to help you through the process, or was it, you know, readily available for you? Or
it wasn't, and it was something where I didn't know where to go. And I think that from that sort of place of being lost, you kind of like, you don't know where to go or what to do, or then there's a lot of, and just from my experience was like, I would question myself a lot, like, is there something wrong with me? Why do I feel this way? And it led to a point where I sought to change my life, and by coincidence, I was introduced to someone who then happened to change my life and help me turn my life around and get me to where I am now. And I think it only happened because I wanted it to, and I became receptive to, like, I need to change. Otherwise, it's like I could end up dead with, like, the way that I'm going is not going to be a space where like anything good happens, because quite frankly, the way that I was going, everything was pretty shit. Like everything around me, like I was doing really good at my career, but like my personal life was just really poor, really bad. And like the decisions that were being made around that were just bad decision after bad decision after bad decision.
Are you able to share a little bit more on that, or you kind of, I mean, only share what you can share?
Yeah, well, like, about the personal stuff, or like the decisions, or
a little bit about the personal stuff and the decisions would be great.
Yep.
Thanks.
So I think I spent a lot of time escaping life through going out and drugs and alcohol, which I know, like, it's very normal, very common, but it kind of got to a point where like I needed to like feel good. Like everything else was just like, it was dark. And I don't use the word depressed because, and I don't know if that's the right word to describe it, but it was definitely a dark place because I was lost and had no understanding, an idea of where and what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. It's just like, you're just doing it. It's on repeat every single day. And I think for a couple of years, the habits that I had in my life were just destructive ones. And like it in hindsight, it did wreck a relationship that I had with the mother of my son. Thankfully, I've been able to turn the relationship around and like have a good amicable relationship with his mum now, which is brilliant, and get to see my son all the time, which is fantastic. But if I had kept going, it would have destroyed the whole thing, and like I wouldn't be where I am now. Like if it had kept going, like as I said it before, it's like it was going down a very slippery slope, but I probably wouldn't have like the accessibility to him.
Yes.
When and rightfully so. Like, just I wasn't the best person back then.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, and as I was saying before, you know what you know, right? And that's it. And it was so good that you made the decision to go, okay, I just got to change this, you know. And sometimes change can be scary. Sometimes it feels more comfortable to be in that downward spiral, right? Because you feel like opening up that big can of worms to be able to change, to figure it all out, or whatever is like, wow, you know, that can feel really overwhelming. That can feel more overwhelming than what you're actually going through.
Yep. And sometimes you get lost in that overwhelm, which just makes it even worse. And then it's just like you feel like you're doubly screwed.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
You're like, how the heck am I going to get out of this?
You're so right.
Yeah, but in like to go back to what you were saying, like to sort of find the support, I was very fortunate to be introduced to someone who had, on a much larger scale, gone through what I had gone through, and I tell him all the time, and he's a dear friend of mine, and he's a coach. But if I was to say, like, he was given to me because I was ready for it. He just appeared and he was there, and like that, he changed my life. He was able to give me the tools, the knowledge, and the understanding of what I was feeling and why, and some perspective around it, and help me change the habits, and pretty much saved my life. Like I tell him that all the time, like, mate, like, you saved my life. I'm so thankful. Like, it's the best. Thank you.
Yeah, that's it. And when people have such a big impact on you like that, I think it's also the fact that when someone becomes like that vault for you, right? That safe place that you can go to, and there's just no judgment there, and you're able to just like lay it all out. It's such an incredible thing to be able to have that connection with somebody, so that then there is no holding back, then you can just be incredibly open about what's going on. And that's being able to do that straight away. It's just like,
It is definitely. That's one, like, some of the things that I've learned. I practice them every single day, because I'm like, I'm not going back to how I was.
yeah.
Like, I don't drink anymore. I haven't drunk in nearly 2 years now, and I won't ever again. Like, I don't drink coffee anymore. Like, I've just gone full, just healthy. And I'm not saying don't drink coffee, because I love coffee. Just turning my life around now. It's just like, I don't see the need to do anything that's not going to move me forward.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm the same even with, I don't drink, and also with coffee too, because I'm very careful about monitoring my nervous system, right? And so I don't want to, it's very easy when you're stressed out, because you're so exhausted, right, to just top yourself up on coffee, especially when you're in a destructive mode. You know what I mean? Like, it's, people always think of coffee as like a feel-good thing when, to have when you're sitting there relaxing, la 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 la. But there's a lot of people that use coffee as more as a stimulant to just get you through the day, when you're just so desperate to just, you just need that energy to get you through, to keep pushing.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Like, I used to drink multiple coffees a day and drink energy drinks like they were going out of fashion. Yeah. Like, I ended up getting sick from drinking so much.
Yeah.
Just because, like, it just became habit of like trying to suppress what I was feeling at the time.
Yes.
Through many different avenues. So, but yeah, it's good to have made the changes, which was through a lot of work, like so much work to be able to put myself on a space where I feel on track now.
Yeah, I love that. That's so good. And congrats to you, right? Like, it's huge, because as much as it seems difficult at the time to actually step up and do that for yourself, the rewards are just incredible. And not only that, you get to find yourself, right? So, how we talk about clarity about, who you are, you really discover that about yourself, because there's nothing getting in the way of that anymore. You're not trying to mask that over with alcohol or drugs or whatever you're using, you know, whatever vices. You just get to accept yourself as who you are without all that stuff. And when you can be incredibly honest with yourself about that, then it's like, okay, now I've got something to build upon, right?
I believe wholeheartedly that mental health is more important than health, because from good mental health will come good habits and good like health habits.
Yes.
And I think it's very easy when you have a very bad or dark mental health and you're in a bad place, it's very easy to like sort of eat with your emotions rather than like you make bad decisions around what the food you might consume or how much you might consume or like the types that you might consume. I think that your mental health is, and not to say that it's selfish, but I would say looking after one's mental self is the most important thing that you can do, I think, in your life, because it is, I think, one of the factors that affects every like part of your life, every single part. Like if you're in, if you feel shit, everything else is going to be shit. Guaranteeing nothing's going to go good because you're like your mental health is shit. But if you're feeling good, like there's still going to be shit, it's still going to be bad, but as much of it, no, there's not. Like there's an immense amount more of positive when you have a different mental mindset and when your mental health is good, 100%.
Yeah, and the thing is that when you actually love and care about yourself, by default, you're going to treat yourself with more respect, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, there, exactly. And so when we spoke on the phone, you know, we discussed like medication, and like some people find that medication helps. I'm not against medication, but
no, neither.
But it doesn't fix the internal anguish, right, that's taking place. It's kind of like a bit of a band-aid patch-up job, although even though it can be incredibly helpful for a lot of people, you still have to do the other work at the same time as taking that, right? So being equipped with like the right tools and being able to talk about it, having self-compassion and understanding, you know, your own ability to be able to ground yourself and make like really powerful forward-moving decisions through challenging times is incredibly vital, right? So, you know, what was your kind of experience with that?
Yeah, so there was a time where it was a very dark time, and it wasn't easy, and I didn't want to fall back into old habits, and I don't actually know why I did it, but I booked an appointment to go and see a doctor just to sort of see if there was anything that I could do that I wasn't already doing. I mean, well, and I was like, I had as many tools as I think that I could have at the time in my tool belt to help me get through a hard time, but I still found myself going to the doctor, and he was like, I'm going to give you like this and this medication and some antidepressants, and like it's going to make you feel heaps better. And then I walked away with this prescription, and as I was leaving the doctor's, like I looked at it and I'm like, is this how much I value myself? And then walking out of there, I just decided to rip it up and put it in the bin. And I'm like I know everything that I need to know. I have the tools that I need, and I'm like, I owe it to myself to not take the easy option and to take the medicine. And look, like there's absolutely nothing wrong with taking like medicine and medication. Like it is, if somebody needs it, 100%. But for me, I made the decision, I'm not going to take the path of least resistance, because I owe it to myself to be the best version of myself that I can. Like I do. No one's going to save me. Like I have to do it. Like no one's going to make it easy for me. No one's going to be able to make it all better. It's purely up to me. And I just decided to rip it up and put it in the bin. And I'm like I have to take charge of my life. I need to keep going. I have to keep pushing through, because it's not always going to be bad. And ended up being right.
Yeah, that's it. And I think, you know, whether it's, you know, medication or other things that you know, that people would dearly love to just be able to, because at the end of the day, when you're in a lot of anguish, right, you just want it to stop, right? You just, you're done with it and you're exhausted and you just want to feel happy. It's a terrible feeling to feel like you're spiraling out of control and there's just like, and you lose hope, right? And so, you know, I can understand why people, you know, will go for medication, or they might use something else, you know, that they can find just to like to go, oh, I just need something fast to help me feel better. But then what happens is it like their bodies will become used to the medication and then the problems are still there. So that's why it's so important when you're taking medication to be able to like still work on yourself.
Yes. And that's where I didn't want to default to relying on the medication to feel better, because it does and always will always fall back on me to the relationship that I have with being uncomfortable. And I think one of the big things I learned was that it's okay to feel uncomfortable. Like it's actually, it's a good thing to feel uncomfortable, because it means that I'm in an environment where I'm about to grow. So the relationship that I have with being uncomfortable, I have changed, because I actually encourage it and welcome it, because now I'm like, this is an opportunity to grow and get better. Whereas before, like, I used to get stressed, anxious, close up, not be able to cope. And people are like, oh, like, why are you in a bad mood? Like, why are you cranky? Why are you cranky all the time? I'm like, you got no idea what I'm like dealing with in here. But it's when I switched my relationship that I have with like being uncomfortable, it's like, it's exciting now. I'm like, whenever I feel uncomfortable, I'm like, oh, cool. Like I'm about to get better at something, or like this area of my life, like I'm about to level up on that. So when I changed that, that was a game changer for me.
I was just about to say, that's a game changer right there, because and that comes back right down to like self-acceptance, right? And knowing that it's okay and not to beat yourself up, because it's really easy to beat yourself up when you're feeling uncomfortable, and all of a sudden you're telling yourself you're a failure, you're going to stuff it up, blah 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 blah, where, you know, and then all of a sudden you're like sinking downwards about how you're feeling about yourself. And when you can get excited in a way and feel good about getting uncomfortable, you know, because you can see that there's a possibility for opportunity in that, and go, well, cool, you know, what's the next step? And you start, you know, you rewire your brain and body to be able to feel good about that. It is a game changer.
Yeah. And with that, acceptance is huge. Being able to accept yourself for who you are and how you are. And like doing a self-evaluation on your life and where you're happy and where you're not. And what you can do to change. And then the third thing that I think is very important is being able to love yourself. So when you accept yourself, being able to love who you are and how you are, and being accepting of, like, you don't need to please anybody other than yourself. Like, you need to be happy. If you're happy, the world around you and the vortex that you're in with the people that are in your life will probably change when you change. But then better circumstances and better people start to form around you, and it then becomes like a snowball. But instead of it being one that's going to ruin your life, it's going to be one that's going to sort of push you forward and propel you into the life that you actually want, or at least put you on the trajectory for it.
Yeah, that's it. And that's a good part about it, right? Because you are going to find that there are going to be some people in your life that you're going to get a bit of kickback from, right? Because they're not going to be able to appreciate what you're doing to help yourself, because they're like, no, we like you being the reckless dude. You know, you're one of us. Yeah.
Like, don't change who you are. We like who you are. It's like it's good that they like who you are, but it's like, clearly I don't.
That's it. And not only that, you know, especially when you're reckless too, some people kind of like it because they get to live vicariously through your recklessness, right? They're not going to be doing that. You know, they're like, no, let him do it. You know, that's wonderful. We're not doing that shit, you know. So, and so, and then when you change, they're like, so there can be some kickback from that. But the cool thing is that once you do step up for yourself and you do love yourself and you respect yourself more and you have all this wonderful self-acceptance of yourself and you start new connections with people and start attracting amazing people, even though you'll get the kickback from other people, you still have those new connections that you're moving towards, and that's okay. And if those people can't always, they may not always want to stay in your circle, right? You have to also be accepting of that, because that can be challenging too, right? Because sometimes you don't want to lose those people because they've been a part of that darkness, you know. Yeah.
And that's something that I can really relate to, and I won't go into detail, but the life that I had to the life that I had now, I had to change a lot about myself, and in doing that, I had to change a lot of circumstances around me in different areas, and it did lead to being a probably one of the hardest times in my life, but and most uncomfortable. But now looking back, yes, it was hard. I'm so much better for it and have learned a lot throughout the process. And my life, I could not have dreamed of it being better than what it is. Like I wake up most days and like I still say it to my coach all the time, like thank you, because like I'm not fighting anything anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not fighting with myself. There's no dis-ease in my life. There's no circumstances that I'm not like unhappy with, because if I'm unhappy, I just change it now. Like I'm not stuck in the old mentality that I had. Like I've got this new life. And I think for anyone that's going to change your life, like, yes, it's going to be uncomfortable because people aren't going to like it. They're not going to like that you want to be different to what you were, and you will lose people. You will lose relationships, friendships, colleagues. Like it will most definitely happen. But what comes next is infinitely better.
Yeah, that's so good. And I hadn't even thought about discussing that, but that popped into my head. That's why I wanted to say it, because I know that's one thing that I find I have found that challenging for myself, but also, you know, when I've been coaching people, they've found that, you know, that there's been people and it's sort of like, and I always say, look, you know, you don't have to always just cut ties with that person completely. You know what I mean? It's more about how you handle yourself around them. Like, are you able to still move forward while being in contact with them and around them, and be strong within yourself so that you don't get dragged back down? Because once you're able to do that, it doesn't really, you know, you can still catch up with them, but you know how to handle yourself, right?
Yeah, correct. And that I think stems very heavily from boundaries.
Yes.
And being able to have them for yourself, because that's something I had no boundaries. Like I had none.
Yes.
Like no boundaries. And that's the thing that led me up the garden path into trouble, because like I just didn't have any boundaries. It was just like not great. And but being able to set boundaries for yourself and then not compromising on them if someone sort of pushes like against them, it's like, no, like I would politely tell them to fuck off, because it's like who I am now and what I want, that doesn't align with. So like that's impeding on my boundaries. And like now, I think when you set the boundaries, your life reflects them. And that's a huge part of change. And being able to change is setting the boundaries and sticking to them.
That's it. And the cool thing is with boundaries, when you stick with them and follow through on them, you have so much more self-rapport within yourself, right? Like you really, you're like pretty chuffed with yourself. You're going,
confidence.
Oh yeah. Like I'm standing up for myself, and you really understand how powerful you can have your own back.
Massively.
And so You know, what are some of the tools that you have found that have helped you? Obviously, boundaries is a biggie.
Yeah, boundaries was huge. I think setting a routine, even though like I hated getting up early, still do. I love sleeping, but like I, I like to get up early, and I'll choose from a few things to do, but like have a really good morning routine. And like I know that people say like this, you can do the 5 a.m. club, or you can like you've got to train, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. The reality is you don't. You just sort of set what works for you. And like I find getting up, going for a walk for 40 minutes to an hour, might listen to a podcast, might listen to nothing and just sort of be with nature. Maybe not even take my phone because we're always all connected to those. And I think setting a really good routine to start the day works. Having an awareness around the way that you talk to yourself, and when you have thoughts that aren't going to lead you forward, or that are going to lead you into the opportunity where it's going to affect your mental space, to recognize the thoughts, but then let them go. That was a big thing for me. And then the way that I would treat myself and the respect and love that I have for myself is a tool that I would remind myself daily. And like I would have, and it might sound funny to some, but like call it a phrase about myself. Like I would say like, I have enough, I am enough, I'm perfect now. And I learned that from a dear friend of mine. And like, that's super important. Like it really starts from how you talk and interact with yourself, because if you're interacting with yourself negatively and very poorly, that's just going to be a reflection of your life, 100%.
Yeah, exactly. And because in the morning, right, when you get up, I think because, you know, you hear a lot of people say, oh, they hear stories sometimes when people say, you know, if you do this, you'll just get up in the and wake up excited every day. But the thing is that then that makes people who feel like they're not able to do that, like they're failing, right? So I think it's really important that you have something that you can be able to, like I use neuroplasticity tools for myself, right? So, and they're like, I can actually just feel whatever I'm feeling and then let it go. And that's okay. You know what I mean? Like I'm just okay with feeling like that. I'm not like hating on myself or whatever. I just let it go and okay, just focus on having a purposeful day. And then there are days when I do get out of bed and go, hell yeah, you know.
Yeah. I have days where I'm like, I don't want to do this. Like, yeah. I think you would be delusional to think that everybody is perfect, because even the ones that portray on different social media platforms that like they're pumped and energetic and excited, guarantee that they have bad days. I guarantee that they don't always wake up that excited, and that it does take a lot of work to get moving some days. And to be able to put yourself in a space where that you are going to be optimal does take work. Like you're not just going to wake up being happy every single day, or feeling energized every single day. It does take work, and that's where your rituals come into play. The tools that I mentioned before come into play, because like as soon as you stop doing them, it's like the train goes off the track really quickly. Yeah. So I think that anyone that thought that you might not be like feeling good, and like why are all these other people feeling good all the time, like in reality they're probably not. Most of us are not. We're just like, we're just fighting with the other side of ourselves every single day, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but I go into each day with the attitude to win the day rather than to let the day sort of win against me. And I don't always win, but every single day I'm like, I'm going to sort of not fight with myself, but you have the choice to give in or to keep going.
That's it. I have a little saying that I say to myself, and it's like, I have a couple, but one is like, am I willing to say yes to my life going well today? And then it's an easy yes no question, right? So and then I'll go, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, well, yeah. Actually, I am, of course.
Yeah. So what's the next step?
Self-sabotage is like, that comes back to your self-worth, and like I still struggle with that sometimes. On like, do I deserve everything that's happening in my life? Like, I still question it sometimes. I'm like, well, of course you fucking do. Why are you questioning yourself? Like, I still do, which is I think it's part of being human, which I think is very normal. But it does come back to that part of sort of loving yourself.
And we spoke a little bit about real estate. So like in industries like real estate, like it can be really, really high pressure. So how would you love to see like men and women more supported with the right tools for resilience and building resilience and their emotional resilience, and supporting their mental health as well?
Yeah, I think that like real estate, but I also think in life in general, like I think that we're conditioned so much that life is supposed to be a certain way. And I'm actually now a big believer that the system is broken because of how I turned out. And looking back at everything that like I was told and taught, I've had to unlearn so much stuff because I'm like, no, that's not right. No, that's not right. No, that's fucked too. That's not right. No. Like,
I know.
There's so much that I've had to unlearn. So I think that it's a good question, and I think it's like very relevant for life for most people. Like I think there's all sorts of pressures that we're faced with every single day in pretty much every avenue of our life. We're hit with all these different pressures that I think that, not to say that they weren't there years ago, but I think it's different pressures now in this world that we live in. And it's very easy for people to sort of be led off track and stay off track, and then not know how they got there or realize how they got there, and then they don't know how to get back.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think that like having an awareness around yourself and what it is that fills your cup, what do you need, focusing on like the individuality of yourself to know I need this and this to be at my best, whatever that is. Like that might be like, I love spending time with my son. Like it's the best. Like Sundays, like I don't care what's happening in the world. That's the day that I get to be 110% with him. And I love that. Like that's like that gets me excited for the week. And then like reading of a morning and spending time doing things for myself is really important, because in real estate and in other areas of the industry and work and life, it's easy to forget about yourself. And then you're left wondering, why do I feel this way? Well, because you've neglected yourself, haven't looked after yourself. And I think that there's so many things that you can be doing to be looking after yourself, like your mental health, reading, like breath work is awesome. How to get yourself into a good state when you're feeling anxious or stressed through breath, exercise. Like there's so many good things out there, but I think that people become a bit too, maybe a little bit proud, don't want to open up and be vulnerable. Like now, like I don't care what people think anymore. Like I like that I can share what I've been through and what I've had to learn to, like, if I help one person in my life throughout my whole life, if it's just one person that you impact, you go, job done. Brilliant. I've helped someone not go through what I had to go through to learn and be how I am.
Yeah. I agree. That's it. And I mean, and even, look at today, like we're doing a podcast today, you get to be able to like share your story, which is going to help impact people too, that awesome. And what would you love to share with others, like especially men that are in like high pressure positions, that are struggling, that are maybe fearful of asking for help, or, whether that's the stigma of it or the fear of losing their job because of it. or feeling like they've failed in life because they are struggling?
To answer that, it is okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
I used to think that there was something wrong if I was asking for help, but now, like, if I get stuck with anything, I'm like so open for help, because I know, like, I clearly do not have the answer.
Yeah.
So if I don't have the answer, someone's got to have it. So I've got to find it. Where my old mindset was just, oh, I'll deal with it. And then it's a destructive mindset. So it is okay to ask for help, and it is okay to feel how you feel, because I've been there and done that. But like I said before, it's not okay to stay there, because we are deserving of more than that.
Yes. Yeah. That's it. And you're like leading by example in that now, right?
Massively.
Yeah.
I'm like, everyone help me. I love being wrong, because I'm like, hey, well, I've just learned something then. Yeah. If I'm not doing it the right way, or I'm doing something incorrectly, or there's a different way to do it, show me.
Yeah, yeah. That's it. I love insights, right? I'm right into helping people with insights and offering insights, and I love insights, like absorbing insights too, because I'm like, wow, yes, that's profound. That's like, I get that. I can implement that. That's like super helpful for me. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the biggest takeaway that I think that anyone who listens to this takes away from it is that it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to ask for help and be open to the change, because the only way it's going to change is if you let it change.
Yeah.
Like it's not rocket science. It's not hard, but it is incredibly hard, because the change is the most painful part, because you're used to living your life in a certain way, but it's not working. However you're living is not working. So if you're finding yourself in this spot, it's being okay to accept the change.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're going to stay in a shitty spot.
That's it. And I like what you said earlier as well, very much about self-awareness and self-acceptance, and being able to, I mean, like, when I'm coaching my clients, we very much come from core values, but also when we're building and creating that inner resilience and that stance within themselves, we also identify emotions, right? Because we want to know how we want to be feeling, because it's okay to just say a word, but if you can't really feel that, what that even feels like it's hard to sort of like step into that or even embody that, to be able to like know how does that make me feel? How am I supposed to feel when I'm operating from that place, right? And then once you get very clear on where you want to operate from in life, it makes it easier to set boundaries. It makes it easier to make decisions. It's like, there's a lot of yes or no's that go on, rather than like, oh, I don't fucking know what's going on. You know what I mean? Like,
And now I live in a space where I ask myself a question when I'm presented with something, whether it's good or bad. I ask myself, does this serve me?
Yes.
In personal and work, like, does it serve me? If it's yes, okay, then I do it. If it doesn't, then I don't. And I just don't compromise anymore. It's like, oh, I'll give it a go and see what happens. It's like, no, it's pretty clear. It's a no.
Yeah. That's it. And when you're clear on who you are, where you operate from, it's easy. It's a lot easier. There's still some challenges, but you'll find that it's easier to make that decision, to identify what does serve you and what doesn't.
Yeah. And clarity will set you free. Like I don't necessarily run into negativity in my life anymore, or negative situations, because not that I avoid them, it just never gets to a point where it's that bad.
Yeah. Because you set your boundaries.
Yes. Yeah. And it may sound, and I know it was damn overwhelming for me, but for someone that wants to change, it's good to just start. And if you don't know where to start, try and find someone who has been where you are and learn from them.
Yes.
because there's no like doing it by yourself is incredibly hard.
Yeah.
Asking for help is totally fine.
Yeah.
And the ones that have been where you are will be more than happy to help.
That's exactly right. And love helping, because they want to, as they're rising, they want other people to rise with them, right? So they love it. And they've got plenty of love within themselves, right? Their cups are overflowing. So they're just like, yeah, bring it. We'd love to help.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's cool. And so if people, like, I'm sure there'll be someone who watches this and says, we want him on our podcast. So is that cool if we put your details on here for people to reach out to you and so forth? Yeah.
That's fine. Like I'm a big believer that we should all be, where we can, helping each other.
Yeah.
In however big or small.
Yeah.
It always comes back to you.
Yes.
So I'm more than happy for you to do that.
And no doubt you'll get some private messages saying, oh my God, Nick, I so got that.
Look, I think a lot of people will be able to relate. I think a lot of men don't talk about it because whether we've been conditioned to not talk about it, I really don't fucking care anymore. I'm just like, it's like whatever. But I think that there would definitely be a lot of people out there that that don't talk about it. But I reckon it's cool too, because like you feel so much better after you have. Yeah,
that's it. And I think too, what you're saying, you were, that was great for you because you had a coach, right? But sometimes it's, whether it's a coach or even a friend, always say, like, you want to make sure it's someone who can very much like bear the weight of what you're going to say, right? You don't necessarily go to someone who's going to say, oh, that person's an asshole, you know what I mean? And they like increase the drama and get you all worked up, right? You go to someone who actually wants to be that safe place for you, and and can help you find a solution if that's what you want. You know what I mean? Because some people just want to like be able to just get something off their chest without the drama, and some people actually want to like be able to tell someone so they can like brainstorm a little bit so that they could figure out some steps forward. So it's really important who you talk to as well.
Yes, I think they have to be receiving of where you're wanting to go. There's no point having the conversations with the ones that are in your life because they may not understand it. It almost needs to be someone who's been in a similar position that can understand and relate to, because like I can tell you right now, the life that I have now in comparison to the life that I had, polar opposites. And like I have built my life now to a point where it's like I pinch myself because of all the opportunities and abundance that I have in my life now. I'm just like, it just flows. It's so easy. It's effortless. I'm like, how the heck is this happening? But I know
it's so good, right?
I know how it's happening because I've done the hard work and I've been able to bring myself to this place. But like everything's like, I'm going to use the word perfect because it is. It's like it's life by my design, and it's just like it's growing so quickly.
Yes, that's so good. I love hearing this. This is, I feel like it's perfect that you're on this podcast show because, I'm just listening. You can tell the how much work that you have done, within yourself. It's so good listening to this. I love it. Yeah.
There's a lot of hard work. Trust me.
Yeah.
Wasn't easy.
But that's okay, right? The rewards, are so incredible on the other side. Yeah. And even during the process, because that's when you're discovering so much about yourself, right? And if you didn't go through that process, you wouldn't appreciate where you are now so much.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. That's so good.
I'm very lucky.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on today. It's been absolutely brilliant. And I'm super grateful for your time and for you sharing your story, and that I was able to connect with you. Thank you, LinkedIn. That was perfect. Yeah. And and I will include your details on the base of this so then people know how to reach out to you. So yeah, thank you so much, Nick. You're awesome. I love it.
Pleasure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, everybody. See you later.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.